I thought this would be a good time to review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, movie I didn't really get to capture yet. You could see the Suicide Squad poster back there, James Gunn in full swing. I really liked Guardians Volume 3, and I think that, upon my first watch of it, I was kind of wondering, if it was a little too weird. I still think, after seeing it a second time, I usually go to see all these movies a second time unless they're terrible. I saw The Flash once. I planned to see it multiple times, but then I saw it and I thought, well, I really only needed to see this once. Guardians of the Galaxy, though, it had a lot going on, and it was something that, unlike The Flash, it has really good visual effects. It has some where they're a little uncanny valley, like very few. I think there's that one massive fight sequence where, and I say massive fight sequence, there are many fight sequences in this movie, but there's one in particular that's just extremely action-packed. That's the No Sleep Till Brooklyn one. You can tell that James Gunn planned that one. And I even remember him putting something on his Instagram with like a thick stack of index cards. And he said, like, this is the shot list for this scene in Volume 3. It's huge. And he was like talking about this 2 years ago. So you could tell that they put a ton of effort into this movie. And I think that scenes like that is, those are the scenes that stuck out to me. I think that, just clearly I'll say right off the bat, there's some things in here that don't work. Not that they don't work, but they do definitely take away. And I think that, like Adam Warlock, he's a thing like that. He's fine. I didn't think Will Poulter was bad in the film. I didn't think he was really misused. I just think he was kind of unneeded. And, adding him to the story, it was interesting because they had set him up at the end of Volume 2. So I think, at that point, they were trying to think, well, what can we do with the character? And when they fit him into the story, it's fine. I just think that he does feel like kind of an extra character added in there. And it's one of those very Marvel situations where the movie ends and, spoiler alert, this movie's been out for a month, but you see that he's joined the cast of the New Guardians, and you're like, that fits because he's had his moment to shine. But to me, it did feel like it was very forced, and occasionally I think they add these characters in because they want to add new faces, but I think in this case it was just they had introduced him in a post-credit scene, they were looking for a place to put him, and they just tossed him in here, and it was fine. But I think that's a good example of where the movie just could improve and where it needed a little more world building. Another thing I did not really love was it seemed like it kind of was missing out on some possibilities involving Counter-Earth. I think that there was a lot this movie could have done. I think that, the High Evolutionary, the main villain of the film, also had a little more potential. I think this film is just, it isn't a broken movie. I think I've mentioned you, there's examples of broken movies. This movie, we should actually talk about that, how this movie kind of overcomes being a broken movie and kind of just works as a sequel because of having a really good heart. But it could have very easily fallen into that territory. And let's discuss why. I think, a big reason here that it might feel a little off to some is Star-Lord is pushed to the side. And a lot of people might be immediately like, well, why do you need Chris Pratt in the lead? And I think that you don't, but it's just that you've grown accustomed to the storytelling in these films where it's about him or it's his story being abducted from Earth and, how he's a leader of the Guardians. This film works in telling a conclusive story to that, Guardians of the Galaxy story, but it does feel like it loses a little bit of focus from Star-Lord until the end. Yeah, we had the Guardians of the Galaxy special, which, had him in it. We had that also gave more, spotlight to Drax and Mantis. But I think that here, there's just a bit of an unfocused amount of time on like certain characters. And it just feels like, we are not getting the Guardians movie that it just doesn't feel like it is as energetic as it could be, or it feels like the chemistry is just a little bit lacking. I think that just comes down to how all the characters are put together, like the fact that Rocket is injured most of the movie, the fact that Zoe Saldana's Gamora isn't even the Gamora that we knew, but that's because of Avengers Endgame. There's a lot of things that have happened that have led to this, and I think that the whole, Guardians teaming up at the end, finally after they get Rocket back, is great. I really love so much of the movie. I love the weirdo energy. I think that was something I was thinking about before. Like, James Gunn is able to make films that have this distinct weirdo energy to them. And, this is something he's been doing since Scooby-Doo. Just weird creature effects and strange characters, and just the fact that he embraces it. Like, the worst of Marvel doesn't do that. Look at Ant-Man Quantumania. That, had a whole village of people living in this quantum world, yet it was terribly bland. They got Peyton Reed to direct that. And if you know anything about Peyton Reed, he made the Ant-Man films, which the whole concept is that, people can go small, but he made those so bland. He made the aesthetic like middle school apartment bathroom. And I even think the apartment bathroom stuff was more interesting than Quantumania, mostly just because, like, they broke the ceiling. I mean, that I could do a whole other review about, but yeah, I really just think that at least Guardians of the Galaxy had a story it was telling, and it very much could have been a film that was kind of all over the place or telling a bunch of different stories, but it really did anchor itself by giving you like a good buddy dynamic. I think that's what James Gunn is so successful at. He establishes all these characters and they have a strong buddy dynamic, even though Gamora isn't the real Gamora, or even though, Mantis is now Peter's sister. That doesn't matter because they're all together, they're all there solving the plot, whatever the core problem of the story is, and they're there to do it, and they do a good job of it. They, have these funny lines. There's a lot of memorable things. People are already memeing parts of the movie, and I think that it just goes to show that, James Gunn knows what people like. So I enjoyed it, and I saw it twice, and even the second time, I will say that I thought the ending was very good, very emotional, and it just works on a scale. If you've seen the first Guardians movie, and then you see 2 and then 3, these all kind of work, and they even fill you in, if you got confused between 2 and 3 because Gamora died. But I do think that this is also one of the only consistent trilogies. A lot of other of Disney's stuff is like, they whore out their properties. Spider-Man gets whored out to help with the Avengers. Thor gets whored out. This is pretty consistent, so I enjoyed it. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. And thank you so much for watching.